mean, the world has moved a lot since then. We're all familiar or comfortable buying products now, and we think buying services is a logical next step. The question is, how do you categorize these services, and how do you offer them up in a way that is bite-sized, that you can buy it? A lot of services are custom, and they have to be, you have to have lots of on-site visits, etc. So how do you package that up? And I think that's one question that Redbeacon is solving. The other thing that I think we really believe in with Redbeacon is there's a whole set of the market that has never paid for customer acquisition. It's all been word of mouth, person to person. Think of your nanny. Think of handymen. Think of other such people who can't afford to pay lead generation costs necessarily, or they're not maybe that sophisticated to be able to do that, or they don't have the time. They're out and about, 9 to 5, 9 to 6, weekends as well. So how does that segment of the market enter into this sort of interactive world? And I think Redbeacon opens up that market.
What's an example of it? What's an example of it?
An example is a handyman. You can hire somebody for an hour. Depends on the rate, depending on the city. They can come in and put in the light bulbs and clean up stuff, and you can get a gardener for an hour or 2 hours to come in and clean up your garden or whatever. These are items that are not necessarily, these aren't people who go to the SEM world necessarily, or to SEO, or have websites even for that matter, and they're just purely word of mouth. And I think that market gets attracted in here as well. So turning, so I think this is the next phase. I think both markets can exist as lead generation, which I think is a fairly strong market in local, and then there's commerce. Commerce is where we think Redbeacon is, turning local into commerce. You can book for a specific price and at a specific time a local service provider.
Neil was part of a company, I forget what your position was, VP of marketing or something like that, called Value Star, that tried to do this probably 10 or 12 years ago, and the idea was very simply to tap into offline commerce via some sort of loyalty program, right? So when the roofer shows up and does the remodeling job, you can actually get a portion of that transaction. But it didn't go anywhere, I think, for a variety of reasons, one of which is too early. But why don't you tell folks what that is? We just brought you up here for your pretty face.
Well, that was in a time when the internet really didn't exist, but we did see this demand for consumers to want to know more about these businesses. The ad in the book or the ad on a newspaper was just insufficient to inform them in a way that they felt comfortable making decisions. That business morphed into, I forget what it's called. It's still out there in the Bay Area. But I guess I'd ask you all, sort of, what is the new stuff you're seeing on the horizon? I don't know if you've asked that question, Matt. I don't think so.
Let's talk about, before we do that, let me just ask Kara about the ServiceMagic piece, because I just want to follow up on that, because Ravi and those guys, I've had a lot of conversations with them, have been very bullish on this segment. And I think that now, just like Dave said, the economy has turned in such a way that people are taking a hard look at this, and that money is going to shift. We had some data earlier that we showed that said like 63% of people that didn't have a website last year have a website this year. It's just the growth in the internet is astounding around these categories.
Yeah, and I haven't spent a ton of time with Rodney recently.
That's why I asked you, because I know you'd like tell me what they're saying on the conference
Yeah,
calls.
no, I mean I haven't recently, but I'd say my from what I've heard anecdotally, the merchant side is, obviously everyone took a dip with the economy, but the demand there is still good because they deliver very high quality leads that convert well, and so I think it'll all come out in the pricing, right? It's just pricing may change, but as you get more and more, they still have so much liquidity to go after in that market. I think their bigger challenge is to continue to diversify traffic sources, because ServiceMagic is an excellent service. It's always been a highly profitable business. They do the work for you as both the consumer and the merchant, but they could do, they could continue to build the brand in ways so that consumers actually know who they are.
I think the issue, as I recall from talking to them, is there's just not enough consumer traffic on the top end of the funnel to fill all the needs that the merchants have. And literally, I don't want to pin the folks at ServiceMagic down, but we had conversations that the business could literally probably grow by 50 to 100% virtually overnight if we could just get more consumer traffic through the channel. I mean, obviously you see something similar where you wouldn't have invested in Redbeacon. So do you guys think it's going to shift that fast?
Look, it's always been a high spend ad category, and it's a business that's driven by advertising and exposure. It's not sort of something consumers instinctually want to review as much, so there's less content out there to help consumers make unassisted choices. So I think that you'll continue to see big opportunity both by going down market to categories that haven't paid the lead feeds or haven't had a system where the lead feeds are low enough, and also by truly building brand through all the new means of organic traffic, whether it's mobile, Facebook, Twitter, etc.
Do we want to go to audience questions, Matt?